Hi, I'm Rachel Lancaster, and this is the Magnificent Midlife Podcast. This is where we celebrate women in midlife and beyond. We challenge the status quo and bash those negative stereotypes about being an older woman. We're not over the hill at 40, 50, 60. We're just getting started, and the world needs us now more than ever. I'll be talking all things midlife and sharing some fabulous stories of amazing women doing very cool stuff. Now's our time.
Today I am delighted to introduce you to Deborah Ives, who is a travel blogger, advisor and speaker, and she's particularly good at traveling solo, which is very exciting, I think, because a lot of us are perhaps a bit scared of traveling solo, but we don't need to be. We're going to find out all about that. So Deborah, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Hi.
I've been following, what you're doing with your solo travel, and you have Solo in Style, isn't it?
Solo in Style, exactly.
Tell us a bit about Solo in Style.
So apparently the largest section of the travel market at the moment are ladies just like us who are sort of midlife and for whatever reason may be looking to travel solo. Could be, in my case, it was because I suddenly found myself divorced, and it could be for whatever reason. You've got a little bit of money, you're a little bit older, you don't necessarily want to backpack or share rooms or be sort of herded around in tours. You want to travel with a certain amount of style. And so that's kind of what I advocate. And it's really all about being confident enough to choose to travel in whatever style you want to go in. If you want to backpack, fantastic. If you want to go in group holidays, great. But if you want to go it alone and kind of build your own itinerary, book it in advance, which is what I do. I think, it's a really rewarding way to travel, and there's more and more people wanting to do that, but maybe feeling a little bit fearful of doing it for the first time or a little bit overwhelmed and not knowing exactly where to start. Yeah.
So what would you say is your mission?
So my mission really is to encourage anyone who feels that this might be for them to, to really give it a go. And, if you would feel more comfortable going in a group to start with, then fantastic. But if you feel that, the group scenario is not for you, I would say, be brave and, plan in advance. If I can help you in any way, I would be more than happy to chat through any reservations that anybody has. I'm all for sort of trying to help as many others ladies do this. And I'm very happy to kind of go through the kinds of learnings that I've had. And that's what I'm trying to kind of get across on my blog is there'll be situations that are great. There'll be a couple, maybe instances which don't go according to plan, but you kind of learn from those experiences and laugh about it and have a great time anyway. So it's just getting the confidence to just do it.
Can you tell me about your first big trip? Because I know there was something that happened, wasn't there, that spurred you on, and you actually went on an incredibly adventurous trip by yourself for not great reasons.
Well, exactly. So this was sort of where it all began for me. So I think I must have been 49 or 50, right about there, menopausal, and suddenly divorced. I mean, really suddenly divorced, very unexpectedly. And I had a holiday planned for myself and my ex, and we'd had it booked for some time, and we were going off into the jungles of Borneo to see orangutans and kind of go through the jungle and end up, both of us being keen divers, scuba divers, end up on this beautiful island that's off the coast of Borneo called Sipadan, which is very famous for diving. So we'd paid the deposit, we were all set to go, and of course I was on my own, so I just thought, sod this, I'm just going to go, and I did, and I was petrified, absolutely petrified. At Heathrow, Terminal 3, I remember it now. It was probably 9 years ago, and 8 years ago, and I was petrified, but I did it, and I had the best time, and I met some fabulous people, and I ended up in some incredible places, and I had some wobbles along the way on that one for sure, because there I was on this dream island on my own, thinking, oh my God, how did this happen? But you just kind of get on with it. And it was brilliant. And I was hooked. And I think when I came back from that trip, I started to look at solo travel options. And there are lots and lots of companies who specialize in solo travel, but the majority of them organize groups. And so therefore you're on fairly strict sort of itinerary. Quite often you would be asked to share a room or pay more if you prefer not to.
So
and
annoying, is it?
Yeah, it is annoying. And I know. And I just kept looking at these itineraries and thinking, oh, this isn't really what I want. I don't really want to kind of move this quickly through places. I don't want to go to, so my second holiday, I booked myself, and I went to Argentina, and that was a bit of it was in two halves. The first half was in Buenos Aires, and the second half was in the wine area of Mendoza. And Buenos Aires was so scary. I absolutely chose the wrong kind of hotel, so lesson learned. I got out and about and saw things, but I probably wasn't as safe on that trip as I imagined I was. And you just keep learning. And then I started to go different places, and each time sort of feel more and more comfortable. And now, I go away with friends and I go away with family, but if I just want to go on my own, I will do that. And it's not a case of doing it because you've got no other options. It's because you want to do it.
Or you're choosing to do it.
You're choosing to do it.
Very empowering.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic. I just love that. So what did you have to, presumably you had to change something about yourself, or certainly your own mental thought processes to enable you to start doing this. What did you have to change?
Well, I suppose if I'm being honest, if I hadn't sort of been, somewhat forced into that first situation, would I be doing it now? I don't know. I mean, I did it, and I realized fairly quickly that it was a fabulous way to travel. I mean, the nice thing about being solo is that you do end up in situations where people are just so open and kind and generous with their time. And so they will sort of, really look after you in various situations, and you get, I feel, a more genuine experience. So I think the things that I changed, certainly the first 2 or 3 trips, the courage to keep going a little bit, because as I said, Argentina was a bit scary. And I can't remember where I went after that. I'd have to look back through my photos. But so I think, and then also sort of overcoming friends and family's reaction to why I was doing this. I remember telling a group of friends I'd been to India on my own, and somebody said, "Oh no, you poor thing." And it took me ages to actually compute what they meant. And I realized, of course, they meant, oh, she's such a Billy no mates, she couldn't get anyone to go with her, so therefore she went on her own, which wasn't the situation at all. So I think there was certainly a while ago quite a stigma attached to going. I mean, my mum thinks I'm mad. My sister, who I'm very close with, she, I know, could never imagine doing anything like that. So I think it's just feeling confident. It's back to this confidence and choosing. If you want to go on your own, do it. If you want to go in a group, do it. If you want to go on a cruise, do it. It's not for me, but if you want to do it, great. And don't feel like you have to go down a certain route.
It really is confidence, isn't it? I mean, my father died, I think, 8 years ago now, and before that, he was very incapacitated, so he couldn't travel.
Right.
And I tried to persuade my mum to go away by herself, and she wouldn't. And she's an adventurous lady. I mean, she's gone off and lived in China in the past and did, stuff there. But it was slightly organized. It was, she went to a place and there were people there to look after her.
Right.
And I think there is that stigma as well about a woman traveling by herself, and will people take pity on her, which is awful, isn't it? But she won't do it. So now, I mean, we go away together once a year, which is very nice. But then I know she's waiting to go away. And I just want to say, look, just go.
Do it.
Enjoy the trip. And things like I was able to go on saga holidays even before I turned 50, because I was going with her. Right. But those are actually very good, I think, for single older travellers.
Yeah.
They accommodate older people as well, but she won't do it.
Well, and I mean, to your point about sort of planning a little bit, because I'm not necessarily as brave as a lot of ladies I read about, and various kind of ladies who are blogging who, literally just throw something into a backpack and disappear off into the sunset. I'm not that brave. I like to know where I'm going. I like to have accommodation more or less booked. I like to, and the getting around in between places is a little bit trickier if you're on your own. And depending on where I'm going, mostly I will have a driver or transport. You would have that if you were a couple or a family. So why not on your own? And that's where the flexibility comes in there, because they can then take you where you really want to go and not necessarily following a route. And I really like to have somebody meet me at the first airport where I come out from a long flight.
I think that's sensible, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then you can get the lay of the land, can't you? Because it's always difficult when you first arrive in a new place and you don't know anybody, you don't know the way it all works.
Yeah, but some people literally will just kind of, head off and go where, arrive at an airport and find a hotel from, an accommodation desk in an arrivals lounge or something like that, which is not my style at all. So I do like to have it booked. And apparently that is the section of the solo female traveller market that's growing the most. So there were lots of ladies doing solo travel in groups, much more than men, and over 50. And now it's this kind of tailored. But the issue is, if you just pick up a phone to a travel agent and say, hello, I'm a solo lady, and I'm a certain age and I want to go on holiday, the first thing they'll say is, well, where do you want to go? So unless you sort of have some ideas, and then you may be talking to somebody who's never traveled solo ever, you may be talking to somebody, sort of half your age, who couldn't understand that you might, be a little nervous about certain aspects. So that's why I think it's worth kind of spending a little bit of time really thinking ahead about what you'd like, or what style you would like. And then you can choose who can help you book that. And there's lots of people who can do sort of bespoke travel in certain sort of price ranges, whatever would suit you. But, if you just sort of pick up the phone to a travel agent, I would not think that they'd be best suited to help you. Yeah. Even the ones who do solo travel, because they want you to go in a group. Yeah.
But with Mr. Google, you can find anything out now.
Yeah, you can, but it's a bit overwhelming, because if you put in solo travel, you're just bombarded, and and I've done it. I've done this so many times, and you just think, oh, that sounds fantastic. And then when you look at it, it's it's in a group, share a room, on a bus, touring around, what have you.
Too constricting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and you wouldn't do that if you were traveling, with a friend independently, or with a partner independently, or you might do, but if you wanted to build your own itinerary. And in fact, my heart sinks, because I get emails from lots of travel companies, and that title is perfect. I got one recently, perfect holiday for the over 50 solo female traveler or something, I can't remember. And when I opened it up, it was gentle walking in the Tuscan hills, or art retreat, or cruise. And I just thought, those are they're perfectly valid options, but can we not get a little bit more exciting?
Well, I don't know if you know, I was in Prima magazine.
I saw, yes.
And it was a trip. I did go on a trip, but I went alone on the trip, so I didn't know anybody beforehand.
Right.
And this was when I was 4 years ago. Yeah. So I would have been 46. And I went on this desert trek in Wadi Rum, and it was probably one of the best things I've ever done. Yes. And I was petrified beforehand. I didn't know if I was fit enough, if I had the right kit. Yeah. But I was rock climbing. And in fact, the one thing that the Prima magazine got wrong, because it was written in my voice, but they actually interviewed me and then wrote it. And they said that I was kitted out in a harness and a helmet. There weren't no helmet. Wow. There was a harness, but there was no helmet. Yeah. And I climbed up a sheer rock face, and
fantastic.
It's amazing what you do when you're abroad, actually. I've gone ballooning in China. I would never, I would have thought about health and safety if I'd been doing that here. But not in China. Just got in the balloon, off we went.
Yeah. You're so right. And yet sometimes the scariest thing that people say to me is, oh my God, how do you eat alone? How do you eat on your own? How do you manage to, oh God, that's awful. I could never do that. Well, I love it. I mean, again, it's kind of what you feel comfortable with. But
that's interesting you brought up eating
yeah.
alone, because
Yeah.
Susie Grant from Alternative Aging, who I've also interviewed on here,
Right.
one of her big bugbears is that when she's traveling alone, eating alone,
Right.
She'll sit down at the table, and they'll find out that she's alone, and then they'll clear the other place.
Yeah.
And that really annoys her, because then it's like making this big statement that yes, there's nobody else coming, and here's a woman sitting by her.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Does that happen to you? Do you find?
Yeah, in fact, I was just away this week in Greece. I'd never been to Greece before, and I went to Crete for a week, and it was lovely. So first of all, slight bugbear with that. Everything was priced for two. All the menus outside, set meal for two, even the sun loungers for two. I ended up in arguments, not that it mattered. We were arguing over like €2.50, but it was the principle of the thing.
Yeah.
But they did exactly that. Every time I sat at a table, they would just wipe everything else away and make you feel a little bit. Although that was, I didn't feel massively uncomfortable there. I've been in places where it's been a lot more uncomfortable, where the waiters have just hurried you through to get rid of you because they just. But then equally, I've been in places where the waiter will just keep bringing you little bits of food to try and topping up your wine and making you feel really welcome, which is the other side.
It just depends, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does depend. Yeah, definitely.
So you said that family and friends have been a little bit difficult with you in terms of not really understanding. Has that been the sort of predominant feeling, or have some been quite inspired and in awe of you?
Family a little bit sort of can't understand it. That's fair to say. Although supportive, my sister certainly, but she would never really do it herself. Friends, I do have some friends who travel on their own. One lady in particular who's a keen scuba diver who just goes off, all over Indonesia and other parts of Southeast Asia on her own. Fine, no problem. I just don't think that I know many people who are in my situation. I mean, in as much as they travel with their partners and therefore they probably haven't even thought about it. I'm sure most of my friends would be confident enough to do it, but I don't know. I think they look at me and just think, good on you. I think, pretty much.
But it's a fact, isn't it, really, that if we have male partners, eventually there will come a time probably in our lives when we will be alone, and then what do we do? Do we just sit at home, or do we say, no, we're going to go, we're going to go?
Well, and I'm sure it gets harder. I mean, I know, now post 50 versus pre 50, I mean, we're different, obviously. I feel fairly adventurous, but maybe I would have been more adventurous if I'd been traveling solo in my 30s. I wasn't. I mean, I was traveling with my husband at that point, in my 30s and almost all of my 40s. So, and if I suddenly found myself single at 70 plus or 8, would I have that confidence? It is quite something to kind of make a leap. Yeah, it is.
So if you had one piece of advice to give to a woman in midlife who's struggling with being alone, what would it be?
I would say force yourself to get out there in whatever way is comfortable for you. And this is something that I've been struggling with a little bit the last couple of months. I was feeling a little bit sort of, I live on my own and I work from home, and I could see I was getting a little bit insular and a little bit kind of lonely, isolated. And it's hard to go do things just for the sake of doing them. And I do have things that I do. I sing in a pop choir, which I absolutely love, which I can highly recommend to anybody. But I made myself get a little part-time job working in Balham, actually, in this beautiful new gin distillery that's opened, as a way of getting out, because I was convinced at weekends in particular, weekend evenings, and it's been fantastic. It's just really kind of got me going. It's a reason to get dressed, put the makeup on, and get going. So I think it's hard if you're feeling a little bit lonely to make that effort. But if you can just find some things to do that force you out of your routine of staying at home, then I think it's really worth it.
Yeah. So what do you like about your time of life?
I love my network of people, of friends, of contacts, of, ex-colleagues, of fellow travelers. I think it's lovely to get to that point in life where you have a really lovely set of people that you're connected in through so many different ways. And I really like that a lot. I mean, I draw on it in my working life and, of course, in my private life. And I think that comes with age. When you've known people for, 20, 30 years, it's just lovely. It really is. I mean, I'm still friends with a group of girls we met when we were 11, when we all started high school. In fact, we're going out tonight. And so we've known each other 48 years. 48. Oh, my God. Yeah. But it's great. It's lovely. So there is that. And then, through social media and all these lovely things that, we've met this way, and you just have these contacts and connections, and it's I really like that. I think that's great. Yeah.
I've met so many wonderful people online. It's just it's incredible. Yeah. It really is amazing. And last Saturday I had a 30-year college reunion lunch.
Oh, wow.
It's like,
oh my God,
that happened?
I know, it goes so quickly, doesn't it? It goes so quickly. Yeah.
That's why we have to grasp it by the
I know.
Go for it and do all this fantastic stuff. So what do you dislike about your time of life?
Oh, I suppose it is the kind of creaks and slight sort of slightly arthritic knees and things of that nature. I've modified my exercise, and I do Pilates. I used to do lots and lots of really high impact step classes and that. So just sort of slowing down a bit more. But, nothing is not stopping me particularly from doing anything I really want to do. But I suppose that would be the only thing.
And what would you tell your, let's say, 30-year-old self?
Oh, slow down.
Really?
I just feel like I spent, certainly in my last decade, so from 50, not quite a decade on, it goes so quickly. And I remember at my 50th birthday, a close family friend of my godfather said to me, "Now, Deborah, don't rush through your 50s, slow down. Take your time." And I'm one of these, I just go at full speed and everything. And
thank you for that. I'm gonna take heed for that. That's my little bit of advice.
I do. I'm like, oof, I'm off. And I've always been like that, and I find it quite hard. I mean, that's a real positive, I think, in many ways, but sometimes, especially my 50s, have just flown, and I just think, I should have been a bit slower. I'm always living in the future.
What would that look like? How would you have been slower? I want to know, because I was 52 yesterday.
Oh, congratulations for yesterday! Have a nice birthday.
I did. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
How can I slow down?
I don't know about you. I spend a lot of time in the future. I'm always looking ahead, planning ahead, holidays, trips, always not wishing the time away, but instead of it is a little bit back to the whole sort of being present, isn't it? But even when I'm shopping, I mean, and even on holiday this week in Greece, I found myself like almost running through the old town of Hania, and I was thinking, why can't you just slow down and I don't stroll anywhere.
You gallop.
Yeah, I do. But also just a lot more, living in the moment a lot more. And I don't know how to. I mean, I've tried mindfulness and all of that, but I'm not very good at it. So if you do that, good for you. If you can.
I'm trying to, because I do sense that, I rush about a bit. I certainly there's always so much to do.
Well, and I think if you're used to working, certainly my work life has always been, for 20 odd years, has always been very sort of deadline, and it's always been sort of hands-on, deliver. So you start your day with a list. It's how quickly you can kind of get through that. And I've always sort of prided myself as being a very sort of hands-on person, that when I'm looking for freelance contracts back in that world, I'm proud of the fact that, I can just dump it on me and I'll figure it out and I can do it, and I'm the but it just means that you go at this pace. And when I was volunteering a couple of years ago, I took some time off and I went to Brazil to volunteer. And I was sharing an apartment with two ladies, both in their 30s. And by about the second week, one of them took me to one side and said, "Deb, you need to slow down, because your full speed is like, your half speed is the same as everybody else's full speed. And it's not like we're not delivering the same amount, but you're just going at it so quickly. Just chill, basically."
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Magnificent Midlife podcast. This was an extract from a longer video interview available in our members club. That's where you'll find the strategies, support and connection you need to live the very best next phase of life. You can find out more about the members club and get the show notes for this episode at magnificentmidlife.com. It would really help me get the message out and inspire more women to feel empowered in midlife and beyond if you left me a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you may be listening to this, and share this podcast with your friends too. Help me change the world, one midlife woman at a time.